don't wait for someone to say, hey, you're a leader, right? Look for ways to lead, look for ways to show up, to step up, and don't just wait. Do kind of the work and do that work internally as well, so that you know how you can show up best and how you can get the best out of your team. So really focusing on relationships, confidence, communication, all of those things. These are these things that AI is not going to take away. You need that human to human aspect. You need to show up. Building relationships is such a core part of leadership, and just don't wait for it. Start building those relationships within your own team, within your organization.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script. But you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Allison Rona. Allison Rona is a product marketing leader specializing in go-to-market strategy for B2B and vertical SaaS companies. Currently Director of Product Marketing at Pet Desk and a 4-time startup PMM leader, she helps growth stage companies scale from 15 million to 100 million plus through sharp messaging, strong sales enablement, and high-impact launches. With a background in sales and a passion for AI, Allison blends customer research, positioning, and cross-functional execution to drive measurable results. She has led repositioning efforts, improved conversion rates, and influenced millions in revenue. Based in the Bay Area, she is known for practical go-to-market strategy and launch excellence. Allison, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me and for that great intro. I love it.
Fantastic. Well, Allison, to get us going, I'm curious, who is someone from your early life or even an early experience that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
Yeah, I think about this, and I think back to the very first time that I led a team, and I was very young. And it was, obviously the first time being a leader, I was a sales manager, and I really relied on my manager to kind of show me the way and also give me just, some insights. Like, what I was managing a team of people who were, right out of school. So who were very young. This was kind of their first career. I also was managing people who had been in their career for much longer. And so were a lot more experienced than myself. So I had to kind of find that middle ground. And I looked at the other sales leaders. I looked at my manager. I looked at other people. And that really, how she kind of gave me some insight into how to look at all the people right within my community. That really helped to kind of define how I show up and what I do with the people who I'm managing or who I'm leading. So I really want to surround myself with people who've been there before, you'll kind of, who've been there before, who can give me some of those details. And she was one of those people that really kind of just helped me walk that path and made me feel confident in just showing up and being that leader, being somebody that people could rely on. So I really think back to my early days when I was just young and just kind of a baby manager, if you say, right, and just really figuring out how to grow up, and she led the way. So yes, I'm definitely grateful for that experience.
It's always heartening and wonderful to hear that one of your first managers, earlier on in your career was a great manager and impacted you. And I'm curious, how did that experience, that individual shape the leader that you are today?
I think it's how I show up, right? I want to be the person who knows my team. I want to be the person who knows what motivates my team, right? Because what motivates one person is different from what motivates something else. And by getting to know them on just a human level, right? That is so impactful because that's how I can have these conversations with them and how I can help them be the best. I want to know where they want to go in their careers, what they want to do, the types of people that they want to become, and how they want to interact with me, right? Some people are just like, hey, give me just the facts, right? Let's just kind of dive right into it. Some people are, are obviously very much more personable, right? You need to kind of have that personal connection. And for me, it's like knowing how those people really want to be, how we interact with them. That is that's how I approach my leadership, like ethic, if you could say, right? So just kind of figuring out what makes people tick. It's so key in my role, not just as a leader, but just my role is so very cross-functional. And so building those relationships all within my organization, knowing how people show up, knowing how people just want to, knowing how people respond to me. And then I can kind of reflect that response, that personality back to them, kind of mirror that. That really helps. And that helps create stronger relationships, stronger bonds, right, within them. And that just helps me kind of show up better and hopefully helps them show up better, right? We get the we get the best out of each other by showing up the way the other person wants to be. So
what does true leadership mean to you? What makes a true leader from your perspective?
Yeah, I think people have these like grandiose ideas about what it means to be a leader, right? You see kind of like those people up on stage, right? And they're giving these big presentations and that's what you have to be. That's what it means to be a leader. And I don't, well, sure, leaders do that, right? But for me, I think it's really leadership is all about that psychological safety, right? That I kind of alluded to before, but it's really, how do I make those around me feel safe enough to be open and to be able to raise concerns, bring issues up, the good and the bad, right? Because to me, that's what being a true leader is. I'm helping my team. And whether these are people who report to me or not, I use the word team very, very loosely, very broadly. And so it's just helping people feel safe enough. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in organizations and have worked with people who you don't feel like you can say what you really feel. And that to me is not what it means to be a leader, right? That type of culture in and of itself is harsh and scary. And I don't want to be in something like that. I don't want to be in that type of environment. So I try and make the people that I work with, feel safe enough. That's what true leadership means to me, that they have that safety. They can say anything to me and, I'm not going to use that against them. It's not going to stick in the back of my mind. Right. So that's something that's separate from just like, oh, a leader is somebody that just has to be up on stage and inspiring somebody to do these great things. Of course, that could be part of it, but not everybody is like a Steve Jobs or that type of thing. Right. There's quiet leadership, right? And there's just, how do you just get your team to do the best work and inspire them in just showing up in the everyday. So that's what true leadership means to me. It might be different from other people, but there you go.
Can you share about a time when you realized that your way of leading or living no longer met the demands of your work and life and growth was needed?
Well, yes, I can. I can say that an early part of my career, one of the best pieces of advice. So when I was a leader, kind of in those early days, I was in these big meetings, right? With lots of executives who had been leaders for a very long time. And I was new. You get in that situation that's kind of intimidating, right? This is how I felt. I was like, am I going to speak up in these meetings? Am I going to say, is there that psychological safety? I don't know if I felt that just yet. Can I speak my mind? Right. And so what I did in my early days that was not great was like, I was quiet in those meetings. And then what I did afterwards was that I would then speak my mind in kind of one-on-ones, right? And saying like, okay, this came up in the meeting and now here's, here's what I really think. And, one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten is to have the meeting in the meeting. And that's something that kind of helped me with on my leadership journey, because I was afraid to do that. And I was afraid to speak up, and I was afraid to, I didn't really realize like, hey, you are in this meeting for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have something to say. You need to say it. Of course, you need to say it respectfully, right? But that piece of advice has really guided how I show up. And it does take some reps to get used to that and to feel comfortable really showing up in kind of these scarier situations with, executive team members. And I really try and coach other people who might be doing the same thing and showing up in these meetings for the first time. Maybe they're a first time director, right? Or you're invited into a meeting to kind of share results of a campaign, let's say, or just share an idea on how you want to move forward. And so that was just really the best piece of advice that I got. And I know it also depends, right, on how the other people show up too in the meeting, because if you speak your mind and you get, knocked down too many times, you're going to be a little nervous to do it again. But for me, it's like, you know what, don't take this personally. Let's try and, move on and speak and bring up what you are there to bring up. Talk through what you need to talk about and have the meeting in the meeting. That's what being a leader, you have to be there. You have to bring what's up from your team. You have to be responsive and responsible in that environment.
Yeah.
So it's really hard in the moment sometimes, but yeah, that's how I've changed myself, since having that piece of advice.
Yeah. And that's where I want to go in terms of the change, having the meeting in the meeting. What did you have to, give up?
I feel like you have to give up that, I mean, it's that nervousness. There's that a saying, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't know if if you heard that phrase before, but that's what you have to give up that, or maybe give in to that feeling of discomfort in that, and realize that, the world is not going to end, right? Like if you say the wrong thing, for instance, or whatever. I know that I've replayed things over and over again sometimes right before going to bed, and you're like, oh, maybe I should have said something differently that way or whatever. But that's what I've kind of changed for myself, where I've dropped that mind shift, right? Like what's going on over and over again in my head, and just being like, hey, you are there for a reason. Lead into that discomfort. You can do it. It's telling myself, like pumping myself up even for this. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I have these like pump up songs that for really important meetings, like I play it, just to get myself like in the mood. And you're going to laugh if I tell you what my favorite pump up song is. It's a Jay-Z song. It's, the song, oh my God, it's the Empire State of Mind. Do you know that song?
Yes, I do. Nice.
So yeah, for whatever reason, that is my pump up song. And I listen to it before any big conversation to get myself in the mind. It's like, you can do anything here. Right. And that's the one for me.
Allison, thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself for your own growth and development?
Well, you would think I would say it's a course, for instance, something like that, but it's not. What's been most valuable for me as I've kind of moved through my career is really the people that I surround myself with. It's being with people who have been in the situation before. I have these unofficial mentors. I think they don't know that I look at, these people that I used to work with. And I look at them as mentors. We don't have any kind of official mentorship relationship, but these are friends that I see from time to time. And I bring up, some of these, meaty issue that I have. And so I look at this, I look at who are the people that, the people that I surround myself with, that's kind of the most important thing. So that's the investment in myself, is making sure that I stay in touch with the people who have done these things before, who've been in my place. It's not necessarily in my exact role, but have been leaders and have done something similar, who have been women, who are women. And so who are.
Can you share a story of how a conversation with an unofficial mentor, kind of impacted your leadership, changed the way you were thinking?
I think one of the things that they have done really is when I've had decisions to make. And I think about this, there's not a specific one. I remember going to them when I was last looking for a new job, and talking through what I wanted to be, what the type of role, they were really helping me kind of define the type of role that, and not necessarily the type of role, because I knew that, but the type of company that would be a best fit for me. They were a sounding board for me. I could tell them, about what has worked well in some environments. I had worked with them for, maybe close to a decade. And so they knew me, right? Pretty well. Now people don't really work at companies for that long anymore, but I did, and I worked with them back in the day, and that really gave me that strong foundation, a really solid friendship. And so when it came down to me saying, hey, I'm looking for a new type of company, this is what I liked at the company that we used to work, at together. Here's what I've experienced since then. Help me kind of define what it is I'm looking for, because, you need some help with your network, right? When you're looking for a role, and it's kind of challenging to really say like, okay, here, I need help. But you want to kind of narrow that help down, and they really helped me define exactly the type of company that would be best for me.
What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
That's a big question. A vision for my impact. I think it's really, a lot of people think that you need a title to be a leader. And you're waiting for somebody, you're waiting on your manager, let's say, to give you that promotion so that you could be a leader. And so I guess the impact that I would like to leave, if anything, is really for people to know that you don't need that, that you just start showing up and being that leader. And for me, that's really kind of making that known to the people that I work with, is that's the impact that I would, like to leave. It's just, when it comes to leader, everyone, it can be a leader if you just show up. So it's just thinking about how you want to show up and how you want to present yourself in your organization.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
oh gosh, yeah, showing up every day, right? And I'm curious, what are the ways in which you see that you need to grow personally, develop personally, to kind of realize that, to show up every day in ways that are needed or required or appropriate?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I said, like even in that earlier in our conversation, and I talk about the confidence and being comfortable being uncomfortable, I feel like I still am working on this myself. This is not a one and done thing. Like, oh, I had one, I showed up great in that one time and now I'm done. Right now I'm like, don't need to grow anymore. It is, for me at least, it is a constant work in progress. Being able to be confident and showing up confident, right? So really believing that I can do what I'm setting out to do, and projecting that in such a way that, other people are also confident in my abilities. So, they know that I can get things done, right? I'm both a strategist and an executioner. I can just set the strategy, I can execute on it, and I can come across confidently. They know that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to do it well. And they believe in me. And so I have to believe in myself. That's what I'm also working on, right? That I can project this through, to my team and to really anybody who I'm working with. So this is a constant state of growth for myself. It's kind of, that trying to like get rid of that imposter syndrome and know that I can be, and, that person that I say I am, right? That I project that I am, and really truly believing it in my heart.
Yeah. And Allison, where do you feel most tested right now? Like, what challenges are stretching you the most in leadership and in life?
I mean, I think that's the real stretch of leadership, or real stretch in life is that, like I'm pulled in right now to more executive level conversations that I have been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, for me, that's super exciting, but it's also that where I need to grow as well. So I love having these strategic conversations and being right in the center with my executive leadership team. I think that drives me. I get to put my stamp on the strategy of that company, right? And that, like I said, is super exciting for me personally. I love being there, but at the same time, I also feel like I need to drive those conversations that I'm part of it better, and so they're always the good, the bad, I replay things, I go over, I'm like, okay, what can I do better next time? And so that's, for me, that's kind of where I'm looking at myself and my growth moving forward.
Got it. This last question is more of an invitation to you. You have this time and space to offer to our listeners anything that's top of the mind or heart for you. The floor is yours. Anything at all.
Okay, sure. I would say I would really kind of just like to double click on one of the things that I said earlier. And that's really, I wish somebody would said this to me earlier, right? And that is, don't wait for someone to say, hey, you're a leader, right? Like, okay, you got a title bump, right? I mean, a manager, right? Does that necessarily mean you're a leader? There are plenty of managers, right, who are poor leaders or who are not real leaders. So I say, look for ways to lead, look for ways to show up, to step up, and don't just wait, right? Do kind of the work, and do that work internally as well, so that you know how you can show up best and how you can get the best out of your team. So really focusing on relationships, confidence, communication, all of those things. These are these things that AI is not going to take away, right? You need that human to human aspect. You need to show up. You need to be, building relationships is such a core part of leadership. And just don't wait for it. Start building those relationships within your own team, within your organization. And if you want that title, that's a quick way, right, to start building that foundation on getting that title. And if you don't want that title, that's fine. You could still be a leader without a title, right? So those are my words, I guess, of wisdom for anybody here, right? Don't wait, to get that title, to show up. And to be your true leadership, your true authentic self.
Allison, I appreciate the wisdom that you've shared with us today. I got so much out of this conversation, and it was fun as well. And I'm sure our listeners are going to not only enjoy, but get a lot out of this discussion. Thank you so much for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.